Somewhere between a t-shirt and a tattoo, a talisman at your center mass. That's how owner of Metal Some Art Clay Lieberman describes his custom belt buckles, made by acid etching, a process he has refined down to a science. His love of metalwork came from a simple job offer.
Years ago, my buddy was the head fabricator over at John Greco's shop, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey man, we need a chump around the shop to do the grunt work." And I was living in Naples at the time, and was like, "Yeah man, I'd love to do that." You know, I was very different when I was a kid, but I think at some point, like, something about making things with my hands kind of like appealed to me. To kind of take something that was nothing and turn it into something. And the ability to like create heat so high that you can fuse two pieces together, it's just, you know, that's alchemy, man. Like, oh, if you add this, it turns into this. That was cool to me. My girlfriend had bought me a belt buckle at an antique store that was brass and etched. It was made by Kalamazoo brass. And I was like, I want to figure out how to put an image in metal. So we started tinkering around with different kinds of acid and resist, and just, you know, had terrible success. It was just, you know, failure after failure. And then it started working.
He started in 2011 at Greco's shop, and in 2013, he and his friend who got him that job started Metal Some Art working out of his friend's garage.
Working for John Greco was great, but you know, at a certain point, you know, you want to do something for yourself, especially when you're working in a creative field. And
at first, they used a process called electro-etching. He described his first belt buckles as atrocious.
What's the saying? We were building the plane as it was flying.
But he and his co-founder trusted the process. After putting the first batch of belt buckles on Etsy for only $20, they did slowly sell.
This actually has traction. This is actually sticking.
And in their first Christmas season, they sold 30 belt buckles, with only the goal of getting their process better.
Every year I want to tweak some aspect of it to just make them a little bit better, either easier to make or more resilient or just better in some way.
According to Lieberman, most other belt buckles today are casted. The metals are melted down and poured into a mold.
Just a syringe is an easy way to apply the flux.
It's really a labor-intensive process that doesn't lend well to one-offs.
But that's where the secret of his own acid etching process pays off.
The acid was a reliable process that we could do over and over again. So you could ask me for one, and it would be just as reliable and easy to make as if I made 1,000.
Awesome. So first what the solder does is it breaks as the base material approaches the right temperature, the melting temperature, and then it will bond to the brass tube when that becomes heated to the right temperature.
Using a resist that's printed off from this big old printer, Lieberman burns the design into a pre-made buckle.
Kind of greasy. Artists do stuff for themselves. Artisans do stuff for other people. Like,
you get to pick the metal. We've got 3 different kinds of metal. You get to pick the shape, and you get to pick the finish of it.
Where it's supposed to run and then drip.
Once he and the client decide on a design, the process is straightforward.
It doesn't exist until you tell us to make it. And it'll be out the door in less than 7 days.
And just in time for the holidays.
Last day to order is going to be midnight on Thursday, and all the orders for Christmas, for guaranteed delivery, are going to go out Friday. I'll be here this Friday making all the last orders and putting them in the mail.
Lieberman encourages all his customers to pick a custom design so they can have their own involvement in the creative process. They also sell belts, pendants, copper bracelets, and leather-bound journals.
I mean, it's a really good feeling. You know, I worked hard at like sloppy jobs for a long time. I cooked in restaurants for a long time. I mean, I love it. I'm a little bit of a masochist, but I'm really glad that I don't have to do that anymore. You know, I can bring my dog to work. You know, I've got an employee, and she comes in and works, and I can pay myself a wage to live off of, and I can afford to pay her a wage to live off of, and that's a neat thing.